M21 signposts today on Outside Notes. Welcome back to another episode of Outside Notes. This is an exciting one. This is M21. That's right, the brand new set is coming out soon, and you are gonna need to be prepared for how to handle your pre-release style events, which are usually done in a limited format. Now, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret about how I shortcut understanding what's going on with the limited environment before the cards are even out. What I do is I scroll right to the bottom of the preview and I look for what I call the Signpost Gold Uncommons. If you look, most sets will have a set of 10 gold uncommons, one for each color pair in Magic. And what you can do is you can closely examine each of those cards and they will give you clues as to what that color pair cares about in limited for the set. This is easily the quickest way to get a broad strokes handle on what's going on with the archetypes in a new limited format. Now, it's not perfect and you have to make some guesses, but I'll show you right now. Let's get into some of these for M21. All right, the first one up is Alpine Houndmaster. This is the red-white one. And yeah, this is great. So 2/2 for 2 right off the bat. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a card named Alpine Watchdog, so we know we need to watch out for that, and or Igneous Cur, another one we want to look out for. Reveal them, put them in your hand, so that's great, and it's just a good attacker on its own as well. Conclave Mentor is next, green-white for a 2/2. Okay, that seems fine. If one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature you control, that many +1/+1/+1 counters are put on it instead. When Conclave Mentor dies, you gain life equal to its power. Very straightforward here. Sometimes green-white's all about tokens. A lot of time it's all about counters, specifically +1/+1 counters going on your creatures, and Conclave Mentor looks like it's the linchpin for that, turboing it out, adding an additional counter every time you get to do so. All right, let's move along and look at Direfleet Warmonger. 1 black-red for a 3/3 Orc Pirate. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, it gets +2/+2 and trample until end turn. Wow. That's nice. Also, sacrifice. That's a free way to sacrifice a creature. So I'm looking for black, red, sacrifice being a deck, particularly looking for ways to steal my opponent's creatures and then sacrifice them to my Direfleet Warmonger. Okay, next is Experimental Overload, 2 blue, red for a sorcery. So this is not a creature. Create an XX blue and red weird creature token where X is the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. Then you may return an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand and exile Experimental Overload. Couldn't be more straightforward. Red and blue are all about sorceries and instants, casting them, getting into the yard. Now, what would you think about here? I would think about cheap, efficient ways to get those into my graveyard while not losing card advantage. That's what you're looking for. All right, next is Indulging Patrician, 1 black, white for a 1/4 flying lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained 3 or more life this turn, each opponent loses 3 life. So if you can attack with the Indulging Patrician, that's already 1. So you need 1 other creature with lifelink, or you need to make Indulging Patrician's power up to 3. And then all of a sudden they take 3. Then they take another 3 after that, and their life total's plummeting while yours is going up. This card seems really strong, even just at face value, but you're gonna want other life linkers or other ways to gain life incidentally, or ways to pump the power on the Indulging Patrician. Okay, next is Leafkin Avenger, 2 green, red for a 4/3 Elemental Druid. Sometimes the tribe of the creature counts as well as a clue. Taps to add green for each creature you control with power 4 or greater, okay? And then you can pay 7 in a red to have it deal damage equal to its power to target player or planeswalker. Wow. So you can see this is all about big stuff for green-red. You want big mana, and this gives you a place to spend it and actually kill your opponent. So that seems very strong for the late game. Okay, next we've got, oh, my old buddy Lore Scale Coatl is back. That's a reprint. 1 blue-green for a 2/2. Whenever you draw a card, it gets a +1/+1 counter. Now, remember, that counts for your draw step, but also any other time that a card says draw a card. So whether it's straight out card draw or looting, where you draw a card then discard a card, that still counts as drawing a card and you'll get counters. And the Coatl gets out of hand very quickly. It'll pick up a +1/+1 counter once every turn, no matter what. But if you can turbo it, this thing gets huge for only 3 mana. Plus, it's what I want to be doing anyway. It's drawing cards. All right, next is Obsessive Stitcher. So this is 1 black, blue for an 0/3 tap, draw a card, then discard a card, so that's already pretty strong. And then you can pay 2 black, blue, and tap it and sacrifice it to return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So we've got strong graveyard synergies going here, as well as card filtration, and it's kind of a built-in combo where you can discard something huge, then the next turn, go ahead and bring it back by sacrificing it to the Stitcher itself. All right, a couple more. Twin Blade Assassins, 3 black green for a 5/4 elf assassin. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, draw a card. Very strong. This is the type of card that you can play after combat has happened, where your opponent traded a creature off or chump blocked. Then you play the Twin Blade Assassins, and then you'll still get the card. So that's really cool. Also, sacrifice stuff. And anytime that you have the ability to have your creatures have expendable creatures, a card like this goes up. So that's what I'd be looking for with green-black. Last is Watcher of the Spheres. This is blue-white for a 2/2 flying that makes your other flying spells cost 1 less. And whenever another creature with flying enters the battlefield under your control, Watcher of the Spheres gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Are you getting the hint here? Are you picking up what they're putting down? There's a flying creature with flying that makes stuff flying cheaper and gets bigger when you cast flying stuff. It's Blue-White Flyers is back, baby. We don't know everything there is to know about this. Let's talk about Signpost Uncommons and maybe even dig into a couple of these with my friend Melissa DeTora from Wizards of the Coast R&D. Where are you? There you are! It's Melissa DeTora! How are you doing, Melissa? It's nice to see you.
I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
Well, who is that behind you?
Oh, this is the dog from one of the basic lands in Jumpstart.
That is so cool.
My new buddy.
Melissa, I wanted to talk to you about M21 and specifically limited, and even more specifically, talking about Signpost Uncommons. How has that worked out in our, is that coincidental in R&D? Is that something that's there on purpose?
Oh yeah, it's totally there on purpose. So the gold uncommons, since they're hard to cast because they require 2 colors of mana, we try to make them a little stronger, and we also try to make them very directional. So when you see this uncommon, you can look at it and say, okay, what is this color pair trying to do? You know, a lot of players who draft they only do like a couple drafts a set, and they usually want to go into the set kind of knowing what they're going to be doing rather than just going in blind and just having a train wreck draft. So these cards are mostly for players like them, you know, the F&M level player who just doesn't really know anything about the set and just needs some kind of direction.
Another one that stood out to me, thank you so much for bringing back Lore Scale Coatl.
All right, I had a feeling you'd mention that one.
I love this card.
I also have a lot of really fun memories of this card too. I used to love this card too.
Wait, what do you love about it?
Well, it gives you rewards for drawing cards.
Yes!
I love drawing cards. That's like the most fun thing to do in Magic.
See, me and you are the same. You know, the way I put it is, it's like getting paid for getting paid. Right? It's like, it's what I wanted to get anyway.
Why would you not want to draw cards?
Exactly.
Yeah, so obviously, like, you see this card, and you're like, draw cards. Like, this archetype is trying to tell me to draw a bunch of cards, you know? And, like, that's the blue-green archetype. A little weird in green, like, green doesn't usually draw cards, but, you know, we like to change things up once in a while, so we wanted to try something new here. One of our strong commons in green is Llanowar Visionary, you know? So this card literally says draw a card when it enters the battlefield, you know? So trying to give you ways in green to draw cards and, like, just do, like, interesting things with the archetype. Like, usually this archetype is, like, blue-red or something. So we're trying to change it up a bit.
I love that. And, you know, to me, Lore Scale Coatl in the context of the gold Signpost Uncommons is an interesting one as well. Because, like I said, some of them are pretty on rails, as we would say. I care about flying, I care about instants and sorceries going to the yard or being cast, these type of things. But Lore Scale Coatl, you know, when you read that, you go, okay, so I want to be drawing cards, and in order to make this card good, I'll be trying to put cards into my deck that say draw a card on them in some form or another, but it leaves it a little open-ended. Like, I don't know what a blue-green deck looks like exactly based on this, and I think that's kind of cool that they're not all exactly, you know, a signpost that says exactly what you should be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like, we do try to make the format deep. Like, it's a core set. It's a little simpler than most sets, but we are still trying to give you lots of cool things to do. And this card, you know, it tells you to draw cards. It puts counters on itself, which ties into what the green-white archetype is doing. So you can have a little of that in your deck if you want. And also, it's probably going to get to 4 power eventually. So that's like one of the other things green is doing, is caring about power 4 or greater. This card actually does a lot of things.
You know, I wanted to ask you about that too. How much thought do you in R&D have to put into that kind of puzzle piece of the overlaps where perhaps one of these cards would be splashed into one of the other archetypes?
Yeah, so we do think about that a decent amount, because there's a few directions you can go, right? You can say, okay, blue-green cares about drawing cards. So whenever you draft, if you're drafting blue-green, you only take card draw. And like, that's not a very interesting draft. So we do try to make sure like a card has many different jobs. For example, the card I mentioned earlier, Llanowar Visionary, that's a ramp card and it draws cards. So like it fits into already 2 different archetypes right there. So we try to like make sure cards fit into like 2 or more archetypes most of the time. Like they don't always do that. Some cards are just super loud and they're like, play me in Reanimator, or like this card is very clearly for the flying deck or something. But generally, like, we want cards to go in different archetypes because that just makes the format deeper. And then one last question for you, Melissa. What should I draft in my first draft? Let's just say I could get any 2-color pair. What would you recommend? All right. So my favorite color back when I was drafting this set was blue. I really liked blue-black, and blue-white's cool too. Like blue-white is a little more of a straightforward deck because it's the flying deck. So you know, you draft flyers. There really isn't a whole lot to it, you know. But like blue-black gives you a bunch of elements of like control, and it's like the archetypes Reanimator for those who weren't aware. So you have like a lot of things like looting, and like one uncommon that I thought was really cool was it's a gigantic creature, and you pay 2 mana and discard it from your hand to look at the top 2 and get 1 in hand. So like that's kind of like an enabler for the deck. So you're just kind of like trying to like put these pieces together to just like put gigantic creatures on the board. So that's a pretty cool archetype that I've enjoyed.
Oh, I'm definitely going to do that then. I'm blue-blacking for sure. I'll send you a picture of it. All right, sounds good. Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and chat with me and the viewers, and stay safe. We'll see you soon.
See ya.
All right, great as always to hear from our friends in R&D, specifically Melissa DeTora this time. And I am super drafting that blue-black deck now that she said that, I guarantee it. Now, I've only got a couple of highlights for you because the set's not out yet, so there's not a whole lot going on, but I did find a couple from Cube that were kind of funny. This one, if you've ever had this happen to you, it feels really bad and then it feels really good. Tristani. The good game.
Not good game.
Not good game.
Not good game.
Our hero here is at 1 life, as you can see.
They are gonna cry.
Settle the wreckage.
Look at this. Look at this. Ah, instant scoop. Good game. Good game yourself. Good game yourself.
And from 1 to 20. That laugh, by the way, it's pure joy to win in that situation. That's all I'll say. This last one is a different kind of laugh. This is so good.
Ooh, Dire Fleet Daredevil with 4 mana. Oh, they're gonna get to kill my Joyra. Wait, targeting didn't say please. I feel bad for my opponent now because that's clearly not what they meant to do. Oh. That's amazing. That's truly amazing. I deserve every bit of that.
Oh man, that's just too good. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Outside Notes. Thanks as always for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Outside Notes. I certainly hope you enjoyed it, and I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me. If you want to get notified of new videos going up on the channel, make sure that you subscribe below, and we'll see you next time.